Our next guest is a leader here of the New Hampshire Rebellion, a member of the advisory board of Open Democracy, and most notably, the former Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court here in New Hampshire. Should have been governor, in my humble opinion, former Chief Justice John Broderick. Thank you so much for coming and for all you've done for this movement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Governor Gilmore and I share something in common. We both went to law school at the University of Virginia, and I've had occasion to talk to him previously, and he's an engaged and interesting and sincere person. But let me tell you why I'm here today. I'm here today because the United States has a serious problem, which was identified by the Vice President last October when he announced he would not run for the presidency. And he spoke that beautiful October afternoon in the Rose Garden, and he said the following: "The United States has lost the capacity for consensus." And he warned, if we don't get that fixed, we won't be able to solve America's problems, and at some point it will be too late. The United States has reached a point where acrimony has substituted for thought, where personal attacks have substituted for positions, and every single voter in this country, every single American, voting or not, is watching our democracy change. It's watching our democracy change. I never thought in my lifetime that I would see candidates for the presidency, let alone front runners for the presidency, on a national stage, in a national debate, criticize the looks of another candidate for the presidency. I never thought I'd ever see that. There was a time, because I remember those times, when people could disagree without trying to destroy people. It's all too common. So by the time the process is through and we have a new president, he or she has been largely damaged by the process. Why is that happening in our country? I don't think people are much different than they once were, but I think politics is very different than it once was. I can remember in 1992, I co-chaired Bill Clinton's campaign in New Hampshire. And one day I had the privilege of giving him an envelope from someone I knew. And the envelope contained a check for $1,000. And he was so touched by it, he wanted the number of the person, and he called them up to thank them. When did that happen after 1992? Our country has been divided in a way that's destructive. Did you ever think you'd live long enough to see the powerful office of Speaker of the House go vacant for weeks and weeks? Nobody wanted the job. How was it that Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich reached compromise? How was it that Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill found common ground? One of the things that's changed is how we finance the process. And this organization is on the right track. And it will change if we decide to change it. But if you're waiting for someone else to change it, don't waste your time. The New York Times reported in October of this year that as of that date, if you added up all the money, super PAC money, dirty money, direct contribution money, to all the candidates in both parties, 158 families, 158 families had provided half of all that money. Lawrence Lessig, who started this movement, was right. He was absolutely right. It's not the amount of money, which is troubling enough, but it's a concentration of money. I heard him speaking a while ago, and he made a point which all of us should be concerned about. He said, before this primary process starts, the New Hampshire primary, there's a money primary in a condominium in Colorado where billionaires and multimillionaires gather, and candidates go as well. And they spend time with them, time you and I don't often get. And they find out who will carry the flag. The Koch brothers, in this campaign cycle, have budgeted $900 million, which is a little more than I budgeted. $900 million. They're not giving money for good government. They're giving money for government that's good for them. We ought to be concerned about it. We ought to speak out about it. And we ought to test candidates about it. People who give that kind of money are not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it to influence national policy, which will help them. K Street in Washington, D.C. has a whole lot more power than Elm Street in Manchester, New Hampshire, if you allow it. If you allow it. It's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to be a lot of effort. We need to change it. We need to find consensus. Money is at the margins. Money is at the margins. We have a system in this country of gerrymandering congressional seats, which look like a Rorschach test. We've reached a point in America where candidates get to choose their voters and not the other way around. And it won't change. It won't change unless you change it. Unless you exercise your voice and your vote. I firmly believe in 2016 that the 1964 Civil Rights Act would be caught up in committee, that Social Security wouldn't pass, that the Voting Rights Act wouldn't have passed. And I would go so far as to say if the Constitution of this country were reduced to legislation and submitted to the United States Congress, it would not pass. It would not pass. That ought to concern us. So this organization, I think, is at the vanguard. And the best antidote to the enormous money on both sides of the political spectrum is an informed voter and a civically minded voter who acts and who tests candidates. It's far too easy to criticize politicians. They're pretty smart people, by the way. They do what they need to do to get their seats back. And they've redistricted the seats, so they only worry about a primary from the left or the right. They don't worry about you, particularly. Not important. You need to reestablish yourself, and you can't look to other people to do it. One of the groups I've been involved in addition to this group in the last 6 or 8 months, is something called No Labels. No Labels is not a political party. I'm a Democrat. I didn't change my registration or my belief to join it. It's chaired by John Huntsman and Joe Lieberman. And I had time in the fall to spend quality time with each of them. And it doesn't seem that complicated to govern America with people like that. But neither one of them are in office at the present time. When I was at the Rudman Center in Concord, Olympia Snow was a board member. I like Olympia Snow a lot. I said, "Why aren't you in the Senate anymore, Senator?" She said, "Well, I used to carry a message from the Republicans to the Democrats, or from the Democrats to the Republicans. There are no messages to carry anymore." We need to stop the insanity of personal attack and ideology. You cannot govern. You cannot govern on ideology. We need to change it, and we shouldn't reward it. One of the questions, by the way, No Labels encourages every voter to ask is not what are you going to do. People running for public office, particularly the presidency, are not shy about telling you what they're going to do. What they don't answer is the how question. How are you going to do that? How are you going to work across the aisle? There was a time in national politics, because I remember it, as you do, where elections had consequences. Now they're like an inconvenient truth. They last 24 hours and the campaign starts again. No one will rescue the system unless people act, unless people stand up, unless people speak out, unless people hold candidates to account. And that's the mission of this organization, and it's the mission of No Labels. Because if we don't control the money, we won't control the debate, and you'll never control the people that are elected. And democracy will be a myth that you'll tell your grandchildren about. You can do something about it now, and I encourage you to act. Thank you very much.